to the University of Mount St. Vincent. We are so pleased that you are here, and we hope that you are as inspired as I am by all of these speeches we're hearing today. Wow, incredible. Again, this section is about Teach Me Goodness, and we've heard such a wonderful variety of speakers today, and I'm thrilled to tell you our next speaker will be Eddie Vaisman. Eddie Vaisman is a startup executive obsessed with operational excellence. His education was in physics and electrical engineering, which he used to conduct research funded by organizations such as NASA, DARPA, NSF, and CERN. After learning about startups, he jumped in right away and was the first employee and data scientist at TrueMotion, where he developed and patented algorithms to end distracted driving and automatically send an ambulance to those in a car crash, even if they're unconscious. Eddie is joining us today with his talk, Love Through Truth. Please welcome to the stage, Eddie Vaisman.
I remember the first time that I was completely overwhelmed by someone's feelings. A friend of mine had come to me, and she had just been broken up with her boyfriend. She was bawling her eyes out, and I didn't know what to do. I was completely overwhelmed. The word vomit just started coming out immediately. You're too good for him. He doesn't deserve you. He's gonna come crawling back. But honestly, I didn't really believe any of it. I was just completely overwhelmed. And I wish I could say that I had the best intentions, but I was trying to make her stop crying to make myself feel better. And it was only once I was willing to take ownership of that, to understand my thoughts and my feelings, that I was really able to be there, present for someone who truly needed me. It doesn't feel great to admit that, but today, I love talking about feelings. I talk about feelings with my coworkers, I talk about feelings with my friends, with my family, and most of all, with my wife. In fact, sometimes I even talk about feelings with strangers. You see, when my wife and I first started dating each other, sometimes she would sulk and she wouldn't tell me why. So I badgered her incessantly until she would. And because she loved me fiercely, because she is fiercely independent, she would always start with, "It's not a big deal. It's fine." But we confuse "it's not a big deal" with "it's not worth talking about." We confuse "it's not a big deal" with "it doesn't affect me." So instead, I badgered her until we had a conversation about it, because I wanted to know. I wanted to get better. Now, there's good reasons to not bring it up. It takes effort, it takes time, it might bother the other person, it's painful for us, but the more loving act is to bring it up. You see, as adults, we think, we shouldn't let this bother us. We're not kids. Kids throw temper tantrums on the floor because they want candy at the grocery store and they're not allowed to have it. But we're adults. We don't do that. We take those little feelings and we bottle them up until we can't fit anymore, and we drop the bottle and it explodes everywhere. The more loving act is to bring it up now. If this is a long-term person with whom you're going to have a long-term relationship or a long-term partnership, it will come up. So the decision isn't, am I bothered by this or am I not bothered by this? The decision is, given that I'm bothered by this, do I bring it up while it's a little deal, or do I let it become a really big deal later? Do I make it a little awkward now, or do I make it really awkward a little bit later? Do I build a foundation of trust and transparency, or do I build a foundation of deception and resentment? Now, it might be deception with the best intentions. It might be self-deception, but it is deception nonetheless. And that's why the most loving thing is to bring it up while it's small. Now, you can also bring it up, and you can make a giant mess of things. So let me tell you what some of the best minds in the world have to say on the subject through my interpretation. Number one, separate your feelings, your observations, and your judgments, and make a specific ask. And accept your feelings and your thoughts as they are today, so you can take ownership and take action. My most read and my most gifted book is called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. In it, he describes a language of life-affirming conversation and a language of life-alienating conversation. Life-alienating conversation is concerned with who is right and who is wrong. Life-affirming conversation is concerned with what is alive inside of us. What are our feelings and our needs, and how do we address them? And the premise is that our needs are never in conflict. It is the solutions that we come up with to meet those needs that come into conflict. So I thought that when I started practicing this, I was learning to communicate. I was learning to talk and explain to other people what I was thinking. But it turns out I was really learning how to feel my feelings and how to understand what was going on inside of me, what was alive inside of me. And eventually I started working with other people. One couple, he would put his arm around her and she would lean into him, and they had this beautiful moment, and they would bond. They were clearly in love. Another time, he put his arm around her, and she turned to him, and she said, "Why are you being so possessive?" Now, at this point, some people might say, "Wow, that's really crazy." But it is life-alienating language that is concerned with who is right and who is wrong, who is crazy and who is not crazy. It is in life-affirming language, we simply want to know what is alive inside of us and what our needs are. And so we worked together, and she tried again. And she said, "I feel like you're trying to control me." Now that's a powerful statement. It deserves our attention, but it is not a feeling. It is a thought. Hint, if you say, "I feel like," or "I feel that," you're probably about to say a thought. A feeling is simply something that comes up. There's an action in the world, there's a reaction, there's an interpretation of that action, and then there's a reaction in our body. It simply is. And she was connecting with her anger right now. And anger is a very helpful feeling. It tells us something is going on in the world that we think should not be happening. And that's extremely powerful. It's also helpful because it helps us fight. And fighting is really good when there's a predator or there's danger and you need to take action. And it's a lot less helpful when you're sitting in your living room with someone you care about and you're trying to deepen your relationship. So we tried again. And this time she said something that would allow them to have the most powerful conversation of their relationship. When we're in public and you put your arm around me, I feel insecure because I interpret it as you trying to control me. In the future, can you ask before putting your arm around me? This set the stage for being able to get past their argument. When we're in public and you put your arm around me, we've made the observation. So we're just setting the stage, we're giving context. We're not making any judgments yet. I feel insecure. We're starting with the part of it that we're contributing to, the part of it that we've created. And we're giving him a chance to come in and empathize with fear and insecurity. We're giving him a chance to decide if he wants to help, instead of feeling defensive because he's feeling attacked. Because I interpret it as you're trying to control me. So we haven't gotten rid of the judgment. It's still there, and we're going to discuss it. But we've set the context. This is where it's relevant. We've said why it's important to us. I feel insecure. And we've labeled it an interpretation. That's something up for debate. That's a conversation. It's not an absolute truth that we're demanding. In the future, can you ask before putting your arm around me? He doesn't have to guess how to meet our needs. We're telling him how to meet our needs. We're guessing our best guess of what it means to meet our needs. And now he simply is able to say yes or no, or offer an alternative. And he might say, I would feel awkward asking you in public like that. Do you mind if I squeeze your hand? And that's our signal for me asking. Now they're in it together. They're a team solving a problem. Instead of one person attacking the other and them arguing about, is he possessive? It's two people working on a problem together. How do we make her feel secure? And that's a much more exciting problem for a partnership to work on. She showed such tremendous courage when she was able to move from the harsh, you're being possessive, to the soft, I feel insecure. And that's powerful. In fact, it is the part that most people have the most problem with. And some people never get past. But because she was able to get past this, she got to the next piece, which is her interpretation. And in her case, she even realized that this is not her interpretation. This is something that she picked up from someone else long ago. This was a pattern of thinking, a reflex that was coming up inside of her repeatedly, but that she no longer believed in. And certainly she did not believe it in the context of her relationship. It doesn't mean that it's never true. It doesn't mean that it's not true for other people. But she decided that she wasn't going to give this pattern power anymore. And together, they came up with how they would decide to handle this situation in the future. It's not like it goes away because you had the realization. It allows you to put systems in place to prevent it from taking over. And it's so hard to move from that piece. It's so easy to stay at the superficial attack. You're being possessive. Because we don't have to dig deep down and understand why is that coming up in us? Where is this interpretation coming from? And find out those hidden things that we might not like. It might be the parts of ourselves that we try to hide, repress, or deny. And that's what Carl Jung called the shadow. It's the things that we are running away from, that we're ashamed of. Because she didn't run away from it, she was able to let go, and it no longer had power over her. It's by bringing the shadow into the light that we're able to take ownership and not let it have power of us anymore. By bringing it out, by letting others see it, and by saying, I'm here for you, we're able to take action, to take ownership of these things, and move forward. Even the parts of ourselves that we're most ashamed of, we can take out, we can bring up, and we can say, I love you, and I'm here for you. We don't get a choice of whether we have a certain reaction. There's an action in the world, we have the interpretation of it, and it brings up a reaction inside ourselves. That's when you have the decision. That's when you can choose to hide, repress, or deny it, or you can choose to acknowledge it, to accept it, and to consciously take action on it. I've been practicing this for a long time now. And the first workshop I did on this, a couple came up to me after, and they said this was more helpful than the last 3 years of therapy that we were doing. These ideas help you get to the root fast. Love through truth is not about arguing less, it's about arguing about what's important. Because most of the time, we spend our time arguing about things that don't matter. And when people are arguing about subconscious patterns with other people and their subconscious patterns, we don't get to the root of the matter. Love through truth just allows you to get to what really matters. That couple I spoke about, when they walked in, they weren't sure if they were going to stay together. But when they finished that conversation, they said, when we get married, we want you to be our officiant. But neither of those examples is why I practice love through truth. You see, my wife is the second woman that I proposed to. And that first relationship ended. Even though we loved each other, we weren't putting in the work. And if you don't put in the work, it's not going to last. That's why today I'm so grateful when I can put in the work. When my wife comes to me and says, I'm bothered by something, and it's something you did, I say thank you. Because it gives us a chance. It lets us get even stronger. So the more loving act is to show love through truth. And when someone shows you love through truth, say thank you. Especially when it's hard. Thank you.